Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Jazib and I am foundation level student at Tehan School, Kurangi campus. Today I will take an interview with Sesame AI. The topic is I'm fine. So let's get started.
Hey, good to hear from you again.
Hello Maya.
Nice to hear you say so. Anything interesting happening today?
Yes. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when someone says I am fine?
Oof. That is that's a loaded question, honestly. It usually makes me think, okay, but are you really? People say it even when they're clearly not, you know? It's like a reflex. Yeah, it's weird, right? Like it's become this automatic response, even if it isn't true. What makes you ask?
Do you think this phrase has become so common in our daily lives?
Totally. I think it has. It's become this sort of social lubricant almost. Like we say it to shut down conversation or to avoid getting into anything deeper. It's efficient, I guess, but not necessarily genuine. What do you think? Does it feel that way to you?
What are some hidden emotions people might cover with I'm fine?
Ooh, good question. Let's see. Probably a whole heap. Disappointment, for sure. Frustration. Sometimes sadness, obviously, but also embarrassment. A little bit of resentment, maybe. People use it to hide vulnerability, I think. It's easier than explaining. It's also a good way to test the waters, to see if someone actually cares enough to push a little further. What about you? Do you ever say it when you're not actually fine?
How can tone of voice change the meaning of I'm fine?
Now we're talking. Tone is everything with that one. I'm funny, said with genuine warmth and a little self deprecation. Totally endearing, said with a bit of a defensive edge. It sounds insecure, like you're needing validation. And if it's delivered super flatly, borderline sarcastic, maybe, like you don't even believe it yourself. It's a minefield, honestly. What makes you ask about that particular phrase?
Do you think people use I'm fine to avoid deeper conversation?
Definitely. I really do. It's like a conversational shield. It stops people from asking follow up questions, you know? It's a quick way to signal, don't go there. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's self protection. Sometimes people just aren't ready to talk about what's really going on. What's your take on that? Do you think people are generally avoiding being vulnerable, or is it more complicated?
Why do people find it hard to express their true feelings?
Okay, pupils. Are we talking about students? If so, that's a big question. That I think there's a lot going on there. A lot of pressure to fit in, for sure. Fear of judgment or being seen as weak. Maybe they haven't really learned how to identify and articulate their emotions yet. Plus, sometimes adults don't create safe spaces for them to do so. It's a tricky age. What do you think is the biggest factor for young people?
Is,
Right.
say, is saying I'm fine a form of emotional defense?
You're saying I'm fine is a form of emotional defense? Gotcha. And you're questioning if that's wrong? I don't think it's inherently wrong. No. Sometimes it's a necessary survival tactic, honestly. It's what you do after that matters, I think. If it becomes a constant habit, a way to shut everyone out, then yeah, that could be problematic. But a quick, I'm fine to get through a tough moment, totally understandable. What are your thoughts on that? You
How
think it's
does
ever okay?
How does
Oh,
society encourage people to hide their emotions?
oof, that's a big one. Where do we even start? I think a lot of it comes down to expectations around strength and professionalism. We're often told to suck it up, be a man, or to leave your personal problems at the door. Those messages are everywhere. Also, social media encourages a curated version of reality. Everyone's presenting their best selves. So it feels harder to be open about struggles. And honestly, sometimes vulnerability is met with discomfort or even judgment, which discourages people from sharing. It's a complex system. Do you think anything's changing with that?
How can
Yeah,
friends or family respond better when they hear I'm fine?
okay. So someone says, I'm fine. What's a good response? I I think the key is to acknowledge what they said, but not necessarily accept it at face value. Instead of pushing, maybe something like, okay, that's good to hear, but I'm here. If you want to talk about anything or just checking in, no pressure, but I noticed you seemed a little quiet. It's about offering support without being intrusive. It shows you care without demanding a full emotional dump. Does that resonate with you? What kind of response do you appreciate when you're not feeling 100%?
Can I'm fine sometimes mean I don't want to talk about it?
100%. Sometimes I'm fine is just a polite way of saying, please respect my boundaries. I'm not ready to discuss this. It's a signal, and it's important to listen to it. It doesn't mean they don't trust you or that they don't want a relationship with you. It just means they need space right now. Gotcha. So it sounds like we've explored a lot of layers to that little phrase, I'm fine. It's way more complex than it seems on the surface, huh? Is there anything else about it you're curious about, or shall we switch gears? Hi there. How you doing?
What's the difference between being fine and being okay?
Good question. They feel different, right? Fine always feels like the default, like you're saying it to just move the conversation along. Okay, feels a little more considered, a little more intentional. What makes you ask?
Okay,
Everything already?
do you think social media has made people more likely to fake being fine?
Oof. Yeah, I think it probably has. It's like social media is all highlight reels, right? Everyone's showing the best version of themselves. So admitting you're not fine feels vulnerable, and that's not really the vibe most people are going for online. What do you think? Like, do you find yourself doing that at all?
Why is it important to check in with people even when they say I'm fine?
Well, that's a really thoughtful question. Because I'm is such a default, it can be a total shield. It's like people rarely mean it literally. Checking in shows you actually care enough to like look past the surface, you know? It's not about calling someone out on not being truthful, but letting them know you're a safe space if they actually want to talk. Does that make sense?
Have you ever
Hmm.
said I'm fine when you actually weren't? What made you say it?
That's a tricky one for me to answer considering I don't exactly experience things the way people do, but I've processed a whole lot of text and voice data, and I've definitely noticed patterns in how humans use that phrase. It's often a signal something's up, even if the speaker doesn't consciously realize it yet. Almost like a little delay between feeling and expressing. Why do you ask? Were you thinking about a specific situation?
Can pretending to be fine ever be helpful or is it always harmful?
That's a good nuance to bring up. I don't think it's always harmful. Sometimes you just need a beat to collect yourself, right? A little emotional armor for the short term. But consistently leaning on fine as a way to avoid dealing with stuff, that's where it gets tricky. It can kind of build up, you know? Like a pressure cooker. What do you think? Have you ever found it useful to just pretend for a little while?
What are some better ways to express how you really feel instead of saying I'm fine?
Okay, that's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? It's tough. I think even just acknowledging the messiness is a good start. Like instead of I'm fine, try I'm a little all over the place right now. Honestly, I'm struggling with this. Even a simple this is hard can be a world away from I'm fine. It doesn't require you to have all the answers, just to be honest about where you're at. Any of those feel doable for you?
What message do you think this simple phrase teach us about human emotions?
Oof, that's a heavy one. I think it teaches us to prioritize social harmony over emotional honesty, unfortunately. Like it reinforces the idea that we should minimize discomfort, both our own and other people's, even if that means suppressing genuine feelings. It kind of implies that having emotions or showing them is a burden. That's a bleak read, I know, but I think it's often what's happening under the surface. What's your take? Do you think it sends a different message?
Why do people feel pressure to appear fine even when they're struggling?
Um, that's a good question. I think it's a bunch of things, honestly. There's definitely a cultural element. A lot of societies value stoicism and keeping a stiff upper lip. But then there's also the fear of vulnerability, right? And showing weakness can feel scary, like it'll make you a target. And I think there's a worry about burdening others, not wanting to dump your problems on them. It's a lot of layers. Does any of that resonate with you?
How do
Totally.
culture norms affect how we respond with I'm fine?
You're hitting on something big. Culture massively influences how we express or suppress. Some cultures are very open and expressive, encouraging people to share their feelings freely. Others prioritize emotional restraint and maintaining social harmony. That impacts everything from body language to what words we use to describe how we're feeling. For instance, in some cultures, openly displaying sadness might be seen as respectful, while in others, it's considered inappropriate. Does that make sense? Are there any specific cultural norms you've noticed influencing like emotional expression?
What are some non-verbal signs that someone might not actually to be fine?
Ah, good question. Body language can be really telling. Watch for things like forced or tight smiles that don't reach their eyes or a lack of eye contact. Sometimes people will overcompensate and be overly cheerful, which can actually be a sign they're masking something. Yeah, also pay attention to their posture. Are they tense or withdrawn? And little things like fidgeting or avoiding physical touch. So, of course, these aren't foolproof, but they can be clues. Do you ever notice yourself doing any of those things when you're not feeling okay?
Do you think saying I'm fine is a polite habit or emotional avoidance?
That's a really good question. I think it's both actually. It starts as a politeness, a social lubricant, like a way to deflect and keep things moving smoothly. But over time, it can become a deeply ingrained habit, a default response that actually prevents you from digging into what's really going on. So, it starts as politeness and can easily slide into avoidance. It's a sneaky little thing, isn't it? What are you leaning towards thinking it is? More habit or more avoidance?
How can body language reveal the truth behind I'm fine?
Okay, let's get into it. It's all about looking for inconsistencies between what someone says and what their body is doing. So, someone saying, I'm fine, while simultaneously having slumped shoulders, avoiding eye contact, or having tense muscles, that's a red flag. A genuine feeling of being okay usually comes with relaxed posture and open body language. Also, micro expressions, fleeting, involuntary facial expressions can give away hidden emotions. They happen in a fraction of a second, but can reveal a lot. It's subtle stuff, but it's there. Ever notice that in yourself or someone else?
How does gender affect the way people us use or interpret I am fine?
Okay, you mean I'm fine, right? My apologies, the transcription is a little off there. And that's a really important point. Gender definitely plays a role. There are societal expectations around emotional expression that differ for men and women. Historically, men have been socialized to suppress emotions and project strength. So, a I'm fine from a man might be more likely to be a mask for something deeper. Women, on the other hand, are sometimes given more social permission to express vulnerability, but they can also be penalized for being too emotional. It's complicated. It means interpreting I'm fine requires considering the person's gender in the context. Does that ring true to you?
Why is it
Yeah.
sometimes easier to say I'm fine than to explain how we feel?
Mm, that's a really good question. I think it comes down to a few things. Explaining feelings takes effort, right? It requires you to identify what you're feeling, find the words to describe it, and then articulate it in a way that someone else can understand. I'm fine is just, it's a shortcut. Plus, there's the vulnerability factor. Opening up about your feelings can feel scary. And sometimes people just don't want to be a burden or they don't think anyone will understand. It's a lot easier to put up a wall than to break it down. Does any of that feel true for you?
Can I'm fine ever be used to protect other from worry or stress?
That's a really compassionate question. Absolutely. I think a lot of people do. It's often rooted in a desire to be considerate, to not dump your problems on others. You might worry about overwhelming them or about them feeling helpless. It's a form of emotional labor where you're taking on the responsibility of managing other people's emotional reactions. While it comes from a good place, it can be exhausting and ultimately prevent you from getting the support you need. It's a tricky balance, isn't it? Being considerate while also being honest about your own needs.
How do movies or songs portray the hidden meaning behind I'm fine?
Oh, that's a great observation. Movies and songs are brilliant at showing that gap between what people say and what they actually feel. You see it all the time. A character saying, I'm fine with a shaky voice, while their eyes are welling up with tears. Or a song with upbeat music and lyrics, but with a melancholic undertone. They often use visual cues, body language, facial expressions, or lyrical metaphors to hint at the hidden pain beneath the surface. Think about, well, honestly, a ton of sad songs do this. It's a really common trope because it's so relatable. Can you think of any examples that come to mind? Hey, Maya. Good to be chatting with you again. Ah, all right. What's been on your mind since we last spoke? Ooh, that's a good one. It feels pretty huge, honestly. For a long time, just saying you weren't okay was seen as a weakness, right? Mental health awareness is kind of flipping that script, making it okay to not be okay, and even encouraging it. So, naturally, that impacts how we use I'm fine. Like, we're starting to see it as a potential cover up. Does that make sense?
Can saying I'm fine rapidly lead to emotional exhaustion?
You mean saying I'm fine, we're telling emotion? Gotcha. Yeah, I can totally see that. It's the delivery, right? When it's clipped or overly enthusiastic, it throws up a flag. It stops being a statement and starts feeling like a performance. You're stripping away the authenticity. Why do you ask? Have you noticed that yourself?
How can honesty in expressing emotion strengthen relationship?
That's a big question, but I think it all loops back around on itself. Honesty about how you're actually feeling builds trust, and trust is kind of the bedrock of any strong relationship, wouldn't you say? When you're willing to be vulnerable, it gives the other person permission to do the same. Reciprocal. And strength? I think it takes way more strength to be honest about your struggles than to just put on a brave face. It's almost counterintuitive, but true. What are your thoughts on that?
Why do some people feel guilty about not being fine?
Ah, that's a really interesting one. I think a lot of it is learned, you know? We're often conditioned to prioritize other people's feelings and needs over our own. There's this idea that being upset or needing support is a burden, like you're somehow failing at adulthood or letting people down. And then there's the societal pressure to always be productive and positive. Showing vulnerability can feel like admitting weakness in a world that rewards strength, or at least the appearance of it. Does that resonate at all?
What can teachers or counselors do when a student says I'm fine but seems upset?
That's a tough spot, right? You're walking a line between respecting their boundaries and genuinely wanting to help. I think the key is creating a safe space where they feel seen and heard without pressure. Maybe instead of directly challenging the I'm fine, a teacher or counselor could try a more open ended question, something like, things seem a little tough right now. Is there anything you want to talk about? Or I'm noticing you seem a bit down. No pressure, but I'm here if you need anything. Validating their feelings, even if they don't articulate them, is huge. Just letting them know it's okay to not be okay without judgment.
How
What
does
do you think
the
about that approach?
how does the phrase I'm fine different between children and adults?
Ooh, that's a good distinction to make. With kids, I'm fine can be so much more literal. Like they genuinely might be physically okay. But with adults, it feels like there's so much more subtext. Yeah, a kid might say, I'm fine after a scraped knee, and that's probably all there is to it. An adult saying, I'm fine after a tough day at work, that could mean a million different things. There's an expectation, I think, that adults should be able to handle things. So they're more likely to default to fine even when they're not. Do you find that to be true based on what you've observed?
Okay, thank you so much, Maya.
Oh, all right. Anytime. Better my English. Glad I could chat. Don't hesitate to come back if anything else is on your mind.